just copy and paste the prompt. I believe that's probably the biggest mistake people are making. We actually lack the capacity to express what we have in our heads.
Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to Amplify AI.
The goal today is basically prompt engineering. I've run multiple prompt engineering workshops, so it's really interesting. So even though I run multiple workshops on prompt engineering and I've done other things, everyone still comes back to this idea of how to talk to the artificial intelligence. And I feel there's such a big gap in this communication. So I wanted to run today's workshop, especially for everyone in here in the school group. So when I present at an event or I do a training, at the end of the training, not always, but almost always, everyone's like, can you please share those prompts? So rather than me and you taking prompts and copying and pasting prompts somewhere, I'd rather you learn how to write the prompts yourself and not really like rely on other people selling prompts, because really, I don't think they know either what they're doing when they're selling prompts. So whether it's the right prompt, whether it works, or whether they copied it from somewhere else. One of the things I wanted to talk about in definitions was the word engineer, because I think it's important to understand the word engineer in this context. If you look around you, everything that has been created by an engineer, including what doctors use to help patients. All the machines that have been used have been created by engineers, and all the things inside engineers have been created by engineers. And the reason engineering is so cool is because an engineer according to me, it takes an idea and makes it a reality. Puts all the reality around this idea and makes it a thing that people can use. So it's no different to prompt, right? You engineer a prompt so that it can do something that you really wanted to do and something you really wanted to achieve. That's why intention is so important, and the right intention is so important. Let's talk about prompt engineering. So when an engineer is taking an idea and making it a reality, what an engineer does is looks at the environment and all the possibilities of things that can go wrong and can go right as well. So they're looking at all the outcomes. And for you, that's similar. So when you're writing a prompt, look at what the environment is, what you're trying to achieve, and what could go right and what could go wrong. Okay. So that's the definition of an engineer. So you're trying to take an idea and make it a reality. The second definition is prompt. So what is a prompt? A prompt is basically a set of instructions that will help someone else, whether it's an AI or another human, understand what is it that we're trying to achieve. Okay. So I've said this before in a few of our sessions, is the biggest jump for an entrepreneur is going from entrepreneur to solopreneur. From solopreneur to entrepreneur. And the reason for that jump is because from solopreneur to entrepreneur, a team gets involved and people get involved. And as a result of that, complexity becomes large. And as a result of that, the other business elements come into play, like recruitment, operations, process, culture. There's a whole bunch of other huge elements, communication being the most important part. And the biggest part and the biggest hurdle, I suppose, for a business leader or a business founder in that instance is communicating their vision in a way that someone else can execute the vision in the same way. There's a great book called Vivid Vision by a friend of mine, Cameron Harold. Great, brilliant book. In fact, I think if I'm correct, one of the quotes in the book is, if you can't explain your vision to your people, it is like asking them to solve jigsaw puzzle without the picture in the front. Yeah. And a lot of cases here in prompt engineering and asking AI to write prompts the way we wanted to do, we're kind of saying similar things. We're saying, do these things, but you're not kind of giving it the picture up the front. So we want to solve that today, right? We want to give it that view. And the third definition I wanted to talk about is delegating a task. So in the prompt, what you're trying to engineer is the task that you want to get done and how you want it to get done, right? So you want to be able to express that. There's a concept in computer science called the value alignment problem. It's actually a problem that exists in general. It is our incapacity to explain exactly the objective we have in our brains in words. So the value alignment problem is that we actually lack the capacity to express what we have in our heads as an objective in words. So in general, humans do suffer from this communication issue. So the best way to just deal with some of these things are have a framework. That's why frameworks work. That's why models work. So what are some of the things that, I suppose, mistakes that we want to avoid while doing prompt engineering or writing prompts? The first thing is to just copy and paste the prompt. I believe that's probably the biggest mistake people are making, because in a lot of ways, you don't know what the prompt is doing. And even if you do read the prompt and understand what it's doing, it'll be hard for you to replicate it. Just think about the times you copied things in school. You might have passed the exam, but you didn't really gain the skill, right? And you don't want to do that here. And you want to change that, primarily because prompt engineering for every business founder is a lesson in communication. So if you don't do it for the prompt engineering, at least do it for the clarity in communication that you can have and get and understand. Am I making sense, team? Yeah. So mistakes, copy and pasting prompts. Secondly is having a prompt and expecting the AI to have common sense on the prompt that you've just given it. Common sense is not necessarily a thing in prompt engineering. So we have to say and be explicit when we are giving our prompts. So not being explicit is a mistake. Because I said this before, and Scott, you probably have heard me say this, is you can get AI to hop on one foot if you wanted it to, but you've got to say which foot, where you want it to land, what is the cadence of the hopping. There's all these different elements that you want to be able to be specific about so that it'll do what you want it to do. I think the other mistake that is made in prompt engineering or prompting in general is not following up the prompt. So you first give a prompt, it doesn't really do what you want it to do, but not following up with it is then a big mistake, because in general, the way LLMs are working right now, before we get to the next stage of artificial intelligence, which is soon, is very instruction-based, right? So you want to be able to give it those instructions in a way that is specific. Okay, so the key principles from a prompt engineering perspective, 4 key principles that I want to highlight here. The first is the specificity in prompts, which I just touched on. The second is context and examples. So giving it, the more context you can give it, the better. And the more examples you can give it, the more it understands what you're trying to achieve. The third principle is chain of thought prompting. And I'll show you these while we're talking about it. And the fourth is iteration. Again, we spoke about this. Let me have a look at everyone in here, but who has seen the creative framework, the prompting framework that I've put out? I've put out multiple episodes on it, and I'm sure it is in the school community. If you can just raise your hand so I can see. 1, 2. Chris knows. Julian knows. Paul no, doesn't. Janine, you know. I can't get everyone else's, but Annalisa knows as well. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through this again, primarily because I think that it would be useful. So this has been explained in multiple different scenarios, so I'm not going to go through the exact framework again, but what I will do is let's take someone's example and let's break it down and fill this out. Okay, so can I get an example in the chat? The first one in best dress. So what kind of prompt do you want us to work on? And we can work on that as a group. What would be most useful in the chat, please? Social media for Instagram. Amazing. Let's do that. Janine, can you unmute yourself and let's do this together? Result is a social media Instagram post. What do you think are the essential information to write a good Instagram post, Janine? So what's the context?
So I want it to create, say, 1 to 1.5 minute story around something that's relevant about my journey to where I am in my business, that will then get people to relate to it.
Okay. So that's who's the audience?
People who are considering starting a business or looking for increased income or
So first-time business owners. Fair?
yes.
Okay. So what's the goal of the post? You want them to raise their hand? Do you want them to like the post? Do you want them to comment on the post? Do you want them to go to a podcast? Do you want them to, what is the goal?
Okay. So I want them to love the post and make a comment so that then I can interact with them. So maybe they just say something ready or a word, particular word.
So let's talk about why you're different. So there's a whole bunch of people helping first-time business owners.
Some uniqueness. Okay. I'm not sure it's unique, but anyway, 30 plus years experience in business. I'm a qualified accountant and financial advisor and business coach. And maybe that's the trifecta of things that make me unique. Additionally, I've just sold a business for multiple six figures, and I'm starting kind of on this as a new direction for my business and me.
Yeah, amazing. Let's do this, right? So if you're looking up on this side, you'll see, so you just imagine, Janine, you're going to delegate this to someone, okay? You're going to say to this person, act like a social media manager,
Yes.
specialized in Instagram engagement.
I think that might be where I'm going wrong, because I always say something like social media content creator or something like that.
At least you said you give a character. I mean, but again, you can give it different types of characters. For example, I gave a keynote last week on Friday to a bunch of general practitioners. It was really interesting because they wanted to create a CDM or some sort of a brochure. And we're talking about writing a prompt. I asked them, so who would be the best person to write this or communicate this? Would it be an expert communicator or would it be a GP? And they were like, it's not the GP. So, if someone said, act like a GP, maybe AI might not write it as a good communicative way that an expert communicator might. So I think the character does make a difference. So you can test that.
And so the social media manager actually implies it's kind of that one higher level up of thinking, maybe more strategic or something like that. Yeah.
Potentially. And then the specialization also helps with saying, okay, I want you to focus on Instagram engagement, right? This is what I want out of you. The result is a post that engages my audience to comment and share. Okay. I'm an accountant, coach, advisor. I have the trifecta, an entrepreneur that has been there, done that, and sold my business. And I would love to be able to help others, first-time business owners, do the same. The approach I take is, can you give me 3 steps that would help first-time business owners if they came to you and you would have to generalize the first 3 things for them to do?
Okay, so teach them how to get a website and get that business up and running. So using a proven system. So, get a website. A lot of the content is done for you, or it would be done with you. So, take you step by step through how to get set up and start earning right away.
Okay. So just see the difference from what your clarity of thinking was before filling out this template to what it is now. At the start, we were talking about this 1.5 minute story. It was sort of convoluted, but just going through the framework right now, can you see how you've made it more clear to yourself and to the AI what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely.
So the way I would write this prompt is act like a social media manager specialized in Instagram engagement and write me a post that engages my audience to comment and share. My name is Janine. I'm an accountant, coach, advisor. I believe I am the trifecta that could help any first-time business owner, entrepreneur achieve their goals of getting their business up and going, because my approach to business is getting them their online real estate, their content, and their presence for attraction, so they don't have to sell their services, but their services are attractive to the people that they're, putting that out to. I want you to create a post that allows my audience to comment, and like and engage. The output should be 300 words with emojis and hashtags. And my audience, that is the post is for, are first-time business owners.
Beautiful.
You see how that is so much different?
Yeah, it's a lot more rich, isn't it?
It's more specific. Yeah. All right, team, I got to run. I've got another meeting in 8 minutes. Good to see you all. And I will talk to you next week.
Hey, AI Geek. Thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI geek. Until then, much love.